You ever feel like every conversation you have online is just a potential argument waiting to happen? Well, today, we're going to dig into a 3,000-year-old text that gives us a surprisingly modern playbook for navigating our kind of polarized world. We're breaking down the practical wisdom of Proverbs, chapter 15. So let's get right into it. Right out of the gate, the chapter hits us with this absolute game changer. Seriously, this isn't just some nice-sounding quote, it's a real practical strategy for de-escalation. It sets the tone for everything else to come, because it argues our words don't just describe reality, they actually create it. And that really brings us to the core question we're exploring today. What if this ancient guide actually holds the keys to navigating everything from our little daily arguments to our biggest life ambitions? Let's dig in and find out. Okay, so the first thing you have to get about Proverbs 15 is that it's not just a random collection of tips and tricks. No, it's all built around a fundamental, almost binary choice, a constant battle between two totally different ways to live your life. The text basically lays out this huge fork in the road. On one side, you've got the path of the wise, the righteous. And on the other, you have the path of the fool, the wicked. Just about every single verse in this chapter is going to contrast the actions and, this is the important part, the outcomes of these two journeys. So let's look at the first major area where this choice plays out, and that's in our words. This text places a huge emphasis on the idea that our speech has real, tangible power to either build things up or tear them down. You can see a direct line here between our words and what happens next. A gentle answer isn't a sign of weakness, it's actually a powerful tool that can calm disputes. But a harsh word? That's like throwing a match on gasoline. It just ignites anger and creates all this unnecessary conflict. Verse 4 gives us this incredible metaphor. A soothing, truthful tongue is a tree of life. Just think about that for a second. Our words can literally be a source of nourishment, of healing, and of stability for the people around us. But of course, the opposite is just as powerful. The second half of that exact same verse warns that a perverse tongue, one that's dishonest or just plain harsh, does the exact opposite. It doesn't build up, it crushes the spirit. It actively causes damage to a person's inner world. But it's not just about being nice, right? The text makes a really sharp distinction between wisely sharing knowledge and just spouting off nonsense. The wise person gets that how and when you say something is just as important as what you say. That's what makes their knowledge actually valuable. And this whole idea of using your words wisely connects directly to our next big theme, the discipline of learning. See, it's not just about what you say, but it's also about how you listen and, maybe most importantly, whether you're open to the idea that you might be wrong. The text lays out a really clear cause and effect here. The wise person, they listen to correction, and because of that, they gain understanding, they grow. The fool, on the other hand, ignores it and, according to the text, is basically on a path of self-destruction. And verse 12 gives us this crystal clear picture of that foolish mindset. The mocker isn't just ignorant, they're actively hostile to being corrected. They completely wall themselves off from the very people, the very wisdom that could actually help them. So we've seen how our words and our willingness to learn can shape our path. But the text argues that these are really just symptoms of something much, much deeper, the state of our heart. It claims our inner world is what fundamentally creates our outer reality. And that connection is made super explicit. A joyful heart literally changes your face, while a sorrowful one crushes your spirit. The big takeaway here is that your inner emotional state is never really private. It just radiates outward and ends up shaping your whole experience of life. And then we get this verse, which is just, wow. It's a pretty radical reordering of our values, right? It argues that a simple meal, just some vegetables, shared in a loving home, is objectively better than a huge feast in a place filled with hatred. So the crucial point here isn't that wealth is bad. Not at all. It's that the quality of your relationships and your inner state, that feeling of love, is infinitely more valuable than the quality of your stuff. The emotional and spiritual environment is what truly matters. So where does all this lead? You've got these two paths. The chapter makes it very, very clear that they don't just result in different kinds of days, they lead to entirely different destinies. According to verse 19, the path of the fool is like a
hedge of thorns. It's a life that's just filled with self-made problems, painful obstacles, and constant difficulty. The path isn't hard because of bad luck. It's hard because their own choices make it that way.
But in stark contrast, the path of the wise is described as a highway, a journey that's clear, it's straightforward. Now, this doesn't mean life is suddenly without challenges, but it does mean that wisdom removes all those self-imposed obstacles that just get in your own way.
So, what does this wise path look like? Well, it's characterized by a few key things we've talked about: using gentle words, being willing to learn, being slow to anger, and having a real commitment to genuine knowledge. And ultimately, the stakes here are profound. I mean, the text literally frames this choice in terms of life and death. The path of wisdom leads upward, toward growth and flourishing, while the path of folly leads downward, toward destruction. And so we're left with this. This ancient guide, it isn't just history, it's a mirror. In a world where every comment section can become a battlefield, its wisdom feels more urgent than ever. The question it asks us is simple and direct. With every word you type, every interaction you have, which path are you paving for yourself?